While Zamasu continues to grow and reach a new level of power, Goku and Vegeta struggle to survive as they try to hold up against the ultimate god, and to everyone's shock, an old familiar face is remembered as Goku and Vegeta fuse using their Potara earrings to create Vegito. What's going on, Dragon Ball Super fans? Welcome to my Dragon Ball Super episode 66 review entitled Showdown, the Unyielding Warrior's Miraculous Superpower, leading into Dragon Ball Super episode 67 in what will be the conclusion of the arc in which has been going on since June 2016, and in my opinion, what a better way to go out in style than to finally have the introduction of a character that we've all wanted to see for such a very long time, that being Vegito, of course. And I hate to say I told you guys so, but I told you guys so many months ago when I predicted that a fusion is definitely needed in order to combat the powers of Zamasu and Goku Black. Now, again guys, this video will contain massive amounts of spoilers, so in case you guys don't want the episode spoiled for you, just simply fast forward the video, go watch the episode and come back so we can talk more Dragon Ball Super down in the comment section below. Again, if you guys are new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe for more awesome daily Dragon Ball videos alongside discussions and much more. And of course, if you guys are stoked that this arc is finally coming to an end, then punch that like button square in the face, guys, because this episode was fantastic from beginning to end, up until when Goku broke the Ring of Light, up until the very end, in which case we'll talk more of the preview for episode 67 in my breakdown review alongside the live stream later on tonight. So in case you guys want to interact live, make sure you guys tune into that, because that's going to get real crazy. But this episode, guys, picked up exactly where we left off, with Goku trying to push back Zamasu's ultimate attack, and to no avail at first until Goku was able to fully push back his attack. And I would have to say the music in this episode was more than fitting, especially after Vegito came into the picture. But the animation as well, the animation was well designed. I really thought to myself that this was one of the most well animated episodes so far. The detail and the structure of everything was fantastic. So again, we start the episode off with Goku trying to push back his attack, and there's no doubt about the fact that Goku is struggling to push this back. But if you look at Zamasu also seems to be struggling in a way. He seems to be very angry at Goku on the fact that he's able to prevent such an attack from actually hitting the earth. But nonetheless, we see how Zamasu chews Goku out and saying that you're trying to attack a god, you're trying to destroy the god, and Goku seems to be putting in more power into his Kamehameha wave. But then we also see how Goku unleashes a massive burst of energy that causes, his Kamehameha wave to go right through Zamasu's, holy like attack, and it hits Zamasu straight on. And we see how even Zamasu's own energy attack blows up in his face. But even with that being said, something happens to Zamasu. We see how half of his face seems to have bursted off. It looks just like the instance to where in Batman we saw how Two-Face came to be. But then we see Goku on the attack. Once Goku noticed Zamasu's weakness, because we saw right then and there after his face was like deformed, we see how Goku is on the attack, but we see how Zamasu grabs him by the foot and squeezes his leg so hard, almost as if like he was about to break his ankles and stuff. But we see how Zamasu is relentless, because even after the burst of energy went right through Zamasu is still in pursuit of Goku. But then we see Goku unleash something we haven't seen before. We see Goku unleash Kaioken. So it's been something that we haven't seen since the Universal God of Destruction tournament. So Goku unleashes the Kaioken attack and smacks Zamasu so hard in the face to where it actually causes him to break his Ring of Light. So for those of you out there that have talked about, the Kaioken being used, that was the precise moment, because Goku in fact used Kaioken to break Zamasu's light. But we see Zamasu, even after getting knocked down, how he just gets up in pure and utter rage, calling out Goku's name. And Goku, obviously enough, was very hurt by the fact that he used Kaioken, because again, keep in mind, it's something that Goku has never perfected before, so he could have died. That was the life-risking attack. So anybody out there talking about the Kaioken or it being used, that was the precise moment. So you guys are great prognosticators. But again, that doesn't change the fact that Zamasu continues to evolve. And even after that, we see how he's continuously growing in power, and we see how Gowasu and everyone else is just patiently watching to slowly figure out what Zamasu's next move is going to be. And we see how right after that, his arm just completely begins to mutate, and it's very disgusting looking, like just very similar to Bio Broly. And of course, the moment we've all been waiting for, we see how Kaio-sama, or the Supreme Kai, we see how the Supreme Kai takes off his earrings, and he wants to give it to Goku and Vegeta, and we see how Vegeta is being very stubborn, and Goku asks Vegeta to merge with him. It's the only way, and Vegeta doesn't like the idea of this happening. But we see how Trunks gives Goku the Senzu Bean, he gives Vegeta the Senzu Bean as well, and we also see Goku give Vegeta the earring. So that right there was so awesome to see, because we see how Gowasu is observing Goku's earring, and he's actually questioning the fact that if this is actually going to work. And of course, Goku says it's the only way to do this. It's the only way. And it was so awesome to see Vegeta refuse fuse because Vegeta knows that he does not want to work with Goku on this one. He does not want to abide by Goku's rules. And then all of a sudden, we see how when they clip on the earrings, Zamasu takes notice of this, and we see how Zamasu begins to panic in a way because he kind of realizes the gravity of the situation. But then out of the blue, we have the ultimate fusion return. We have Vegito. And let me tell you something, when he came back, the minute we saw him, he's smiling, and he told Zamasu, okay, let's do this. I'm neither Goku or Vegeta. I am Vegito. More practically, I am Super Saiyan Blue Vegito. And he transformed, and that's when Zamasu launched, you know, a very powerful attack at Vegito, and Vegito caught it with one hand, and as he caught it with one hand, he just completely disintegrated the attack, and Zamasu was shocked because he's never seen anyone do that before, and Vegito looks upon Zamasu, and he tells him, let's do this. So that was right before we cut to commercial break, of course, and then even after we came back, we see how Zamasu was kind of, you know, relentless on the fact that two mortals decided to use the Kaioshin earrings in combining their powers, but even said, Zamasu said, that will not stop me. Even with your combined powers, it still won't be enough. And Vegito is, again, very arrogant in his ways, but he still challenges and welcomes the fact that Zamasu is as powerful as he is to go up against his own power. So Trunks actually looks up in the sky, and Trunks is like, incredible. I never even thought this would actually happen. And then Zamasu says the same thing that he's always said, that he said the gods are better, and we saw how Vegito just quickly attacked him so hard. He beat Zamasu into the dirt, and that's when the real fight begins. But we also notice how fast Zamasu is as well, and he begins to drag Vegito throughout the entire city. And let me tell you guys something, this fight was absolutely intense. We see how fast Vegito is, and we see the gravity on how he strikes. We see how the fact that Vegito doesn't seem to be affected by anything Zamasu does, and during the middle portions of this fight, we see how intense it got because Vegito got blown back, and we see how once he got blown back by Zamasu's attack, Zamasu just keeps on trying to attack Vegito no matter what. And we also see how, like, there's a struggle because Zamasu is trying to push Vegito back, but we also see how Vegito is also trying to push back Zamasu. So we see how the amount of energy pouring out of both of them was to the extreme. I would have to say, in terms of like choreograph, this was the best choreographed fight in a very long time because the way they actually fought was supremely fantastic. So and then we see Zamasu have the upper hand on Vegito just for a small time, and then we see how he unleashes this energy sword, the very same sword that Black used to use, and he tries to stab Vegito, and Vegito uses his energy sword. He uses his energy sword and stabs Zamasu, and once he stabbed Zamasu, that was something to where we were all like, holy shit, like we could not believe that. So I couldn't believe it like the very second I saw it, but we see how Vegito begins to smile at Zamasu and tells him, you're not the only one that can wield a blade. So we see how Vegito stabs Zamasu, and Zamasu seems to be very, very shocked on the fact that he's been stabbed, but he's also laughing at the idea that Vegito is this strong, and Vegito says, what, does the truth hurt? I thought you were immortal. And then he says, you aren't immortal anymore. Haven't you realized that? Apparently he didn't. But then we see how Zamasu begins to cut away at Vegito, talking about even if he's not immortal, he could still have enough power to destroy him. And Zamasu says that it's just that he wanted, though mortals, you know, Goku and Vegeta had power surpassing a god, even if he wanted that power for himself, he has it, and he has that in the form of Goku Black. So we see how he's emitting tons and tons of power, and Vegito seems to be a little bummed out by this because he realizes that Zamasu is kind of telling the truth. But we also get to see how Zamasu begins to power up, but it's not just a power up, he begins to grow and grow and grow, and he becomes like this giant monster, very similar to like Lord Slug in a way. That's how big he was. And we see how the entire city is shaking on the fact that Vegito is fighting this giant version of Zamasu, and there doesn't seem to be a limit to Zamasu's powers, but Zamasu also wanted them to fuse because he wanted to see what mortals are truly capable of. But even while Vegito is as arrogant as he is, he realized that fighting Zamasu in this form is kind of useless, especially if he keeps coming back. So, but even while Zamasu's fighting Vegito, Gowasu says that Zamasu's ugly form now reflects his eternal conflict because he's struggling inside, and it's halfway deep because we see how there is this great struggle happening within Zamasu. The monster inside of him is beginning to reflect and manifest itself on the surface. But then we see Mai give Trunks his sword, and his sword is somewhat broken, and you know, we see the pain and and we see the sorrow inside of Trunks, but we also see how Trunks, you know, manages to fix his sword miraculously. I mean, that's something that I don't think we've ever seen before, and Trunks is like the most OP'd character because we see him use all sorts of attacks. He's able to fix swords now, just miraculously, but we also see how the sword itself is beginning to glow, but Vegito is putting the beats on Zamasu as, you know, they're dragging it out throughout the city, and we see how Trunks is in hot pursuit trying to catch them, and Zamasu's eagerly trying to stab Vegito. He's trying to stab Vegito, but it doesn't seem to be working, and then Vegito cocks back and he unleashes the final Kamehameha wave, and this attack, I would have to say, is supremely destructive, but we see how Zamasu, you know, just takes the blast head on, and then right after he takes the blast, we see how he just rises up in the air, and Vegito uses instant transmission to try to fight him off, but again, it doesn't seem to be working. Like, all of Vegito's attacks, you know, they are what they are, but then we see them defuse. We saw Vegito defuse. It was something that we've never ever seen before happen within Potara, at least, and then we see how Zamasu begins to capitalize on both of them, and he wants to cut them apart, but Trunks makes the save, and I know a lot of you guys might be pissed. I'm going to talk more or less about this in my breakdown review. But we see how Trunks steps in, and Trunks is trying to make the save, and he's using this new sword to fight Zamasu off, and Zamasu's trying to catch him, but we see how Trunks slashes Zamasu across the chest with a big X, and then, you know, Zamasu seems to be unaffected by this, and he begins to rage out at Trunks because, obviously enough, the mortal seems to have a head up, and Trunks is the only one that seems to be holding off Zamasu. Again, this is Trunks' story, and Trunks says that his fighting, you know, he's fighting in order to save an entire population. He's fighting to save the sake of the humanity, and then we see something else happen to every single human that's there present watching this fight. Trunks seems to be getting stronger and stronger, and we see how the kids are crying out for Trunks to help, and we see how the kids are giving Trunks hope, and they're giving him spirit, and very similar to the spirit bomb. Remember when everyone used to gather up their energy and whatnot? We see how there's something formulating above Trunks, and we see how the light begins to emanate and just completely clears up the sky, and then we see this massive ball of energy in the sky, and what seems to be, and it looks like the spirit bomb, and Goku and Vegeta are obviously enough, they're on the ground, and they're shocked by this, and it does look like the Genki Dama sword. It looks like the spirit bomb sword, and we see how Goku and Vegeta also offer up their energy to Trunks. So Trunks is the man here. Trunks is the one wielding the sword, and he tells Zamasu this is over, and Zamasu's like, it's over when I say it's over, and then he tries to actually strike Trunks, and Trunks flies up in the sky, and he tells Zamasu, for everything you've done, for all the people you've killed, this is your time to suffer, and he engulfs himself in that spirit bomb, and we see how like this Genki Dama begins to absorb in the sword. I'm telling you guys, this is really wacky stuff, but then we see how Trunks is trying to use that spirit sword to stab Zamasu, and that sword is huge. It looks like a Kingdom Hearts sword, whatever it is, it looks like it's huge, and we see how Trunks is desperately trying to like just pour all his energy into slicing Zamasu, and Trunks breaks Zamasu's sword, and he stabs Zamasu. Trunks stabs Zamasu right in the midsection, and we see how Zamasu's kind of like trying to pull the sword out of him, but it's not working. The sword is too strong. So again, I'll talk more about this in my review, guys, in my breakdown, because this was something that a lot of us were like really caught off guard with, but of course we do know that Zamasu is not dead. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, guys, about this episode. What are your overall thoughts on them defusing? What are your overall thoughts on Trunks absorbing the power and the energy of the people, and somewhat of like the Genki Dama sword? Let me know your thoughts, guys. And the best part was like when Trunks slashed Zamasu from the balls up, it was crazy stuff. Like he split him in half, and Trunks said, I am avenging the people. This is for everyone you've killed, and fair enough, we see how Zamasu gets split apart, but it is not the end, because the end is far from over now, because obviously we do know of the upcoming episode, in which case I'll talk more of that in my breakdown review. But let me know your thoughts down below, guys. Thank you all for watching. As always, tune in for the breakdown and the live stream, and I'll be seeing you all later. Take it easy, guys. Peace.